I still remember that day, like it was yesterday. Sitting in our family attorney's office, watching my name being crossed out from my parents' will while my siblings Jack and Amanda each inherited $200,000. That exclusion ignited something in me, pushing me to build my own path from absolutely nothing. 10 years later, as my tech company reached a multi-million-dollar valuation, my phone rang unexpectedly. My parents were in dire financial straits and needed urgent help. Before I continue with my story, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about overcoming family betrayal and finding success against all odds. Growing up in a middle-class home in Boston as the youngest of 3 children, I always sensed something was different about how my parents treated me. My father, Thomas, a successful financial director, was always stern and demanding, while my mother, Eleanor, a high school teacher, clearly favored my older siblings. The difference in treatment was obvious from early on. Jack, my brother, who is now 40, and Amanda, my sister, who is 37, both attended prestigious private schools. I was sent to the local public school because, as my parents said, "We already stretched our budget for your siblings." When my 16th birthday arrived, I watched with a sinking heart as both Jack and Amanda received cars as their coming-of-age gifts. My present, a set of books about financial planning. My father slid them across the table with a dismissive, "These will be more useful to you than anything else." Despite the unequal treatment, I developed my own strengths. I was always fascinated by technology, spending hours taking apart and reassembling computers, fixing electronic devices for neighbors to earn pocket money. My bedroom became a workshop filled with circuit boards, wires, and coding manuals. While other kids played sports, I taught myself programming languages and built simple applications. My father, Thomas, never understood my passion. "Computers are just a hobby, Spencer," he would say, his voice tinged with disappointment. "Real success comes from understanding money and markets. You should follow in my footsteps instead of wasting time on these electronic toys." One of my most painful childhood memories came during my junior year of high school. I had worked for months on a software project that won first place in the state programming competition. The judges called it revolutionary and beyond college-level work. The ceremony was scheduled for 6 in the evening, and I had reminded my parents repeatedly. That afternoon, I stood on stage, accepting my gold medal, scanning the audience for familiar faces that never appeared. Later, I learned they had chosen to attend Jack's basketball game instead, even though his team had games every week while my achievement was once in a lifetime. Our family dinners became a showcase for my siblings' accomplishments. Jack aced his biology exam, my father would announce proudly. Amanda got accepted into the honor society, my mother would beam. When I tried sharing news about a programming breakthrough or a website I had built, I was met with polite nods before conversation quickly shifted back to my siblings. The message was clear. Their paths mattered, mine did not. But rather than breaking me, this rejection fueled my determination. While my parents were busy celebrating my siblings, I quietly honed my programming skills, building websites for local businesses and developing small applications that generated modest income throughout high school. My room became my sanctuary, the glow of my computer screen, the only validation I needed as I worked late into the night, coding, learning, and preparing for a future I would build entirely on my own. Everything changed when I turned 18. I received an acceptance letter from MIT with a partial scholarship to study computer science. Opening that envelope was one of the proudest moments of my life. Finally, I thought my parents would see value in my passion and abilities. I needed financial help for the remaining tuition and living expenses, so I approached them with my acceptance letter in hand, heart racing with equal parts hope and anxiety. We sat in our living room, the leather sofa creaking, as my father shifted uncomfortably. My mother perched on the edge of her seat, eyes darting between my father and me. I explained about the scholarship and the opportunity, my voice growing more animated as I detailed the prestigious program and career possibilities. When I finished, my father cleared his throat. His response would forever change our relationship. "We have been saving for Jack's medical school and Amanda's law school since they were born. We have invested $200,000 for each of their educations. With you, Spencer, I am afraid the money is gone. You will have to figure this out on your own." The words hit me like a physical blow. I had always suspected I was less favored, but this confirmation crushed something inside me. Not a single dollar had been saved for my future. Not one. My suspicion was confirmed a week later when I accidentally overheard my parents discussing finances in the kitchen. My father mentioned Jack's college fund and Amanda's education savings, specifically naming the $200,000 accounts they had established for each of my siblings. The conversation left no doubt my exclusion was intentional and long-standing. That fall, while my brother attended medical school in a fully furnished apartment paid for by our parents, I moved into the smallest, most decrepit dorm room at MIT. While Amanda studied law with all expenses covered, I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. Mornings, I stocked shelves at the campus bookstore, starting at 5:30. Afternoons, I worked at the computer lab, helping students with technical problems. Evenings and weekends, I delivered food for a local restaurant returning to my dorm, exhausted only to face hours of challenging coursework. My diet consisted mainly of instant ramen and whatever leftover food I could bring home from the restaurant. My clothes were worn thin, my laptop secondhand and glitchy. Each semester I watched the student loans pile higher, a mountain of debt that sometimes seemed insurmountable. There were nights I cried from exhaustion, my hands cramping from typing code for paying clients after finishing my actual assignments. The isolation was perhaps the hardest part. While other students went to parties or study groups, I was always working. My only company was often the blue glow of my computer screen illuminating my tiny room during those endless nights of coding. The loneliness was profound, but I never once considered quitting. Every slight, every exclusion from my family became fuel for my determination. During my sophomore year, I met Professor Martin in my advanced algorithms class. Unlike my father, he saw potential in my ideas and approach to technology problems. After class one day, he stopped me. "Spencer, your solution to today's problem was unlike anything I have seen from an undergraduate. Have you considered where this talent might take you?" Professor Martin became the mentor I had always craved. He recommended books, introduced me to industry contacts, and most importantly, believed in me when no one else did. Under his guidance, I began developing an idea for a data security platform during my senior year, a concept that would eventually become the foundation of my company. While my family celebrated Jack's medical residency and Amanda's clerkship at a prestigious law firm, I was laying the groundwork for a future they could never have imagined for their least favored child. The culmination of my college years brought both triumph and heartbreak. At 25, I graduated from MIT with honors and $150,000 in student debt. Instead of feeling solely proud of my accomplishment, I was overwhelmed by financial anxiety and the stark absence of family support. I decided to host a small graduation dinner at my apartment, a modest celebration of my achievement. I spent what little savings I had on ingredients to cook a special meal. Only 3 people attended: Professor Martin and 2 friends from my computer science program. My family was noticeably absent, attending Jack's medical specialty graduation ceremony across the country. They did not even call. A week after graduation, while I was applying for jobs and trying to figure out my next steps, a certified letter arrived from my parents' attorney. My hands trembled as I opened it somehow, knowing this would not be good news. The letter was brief, but devastating. My parents had updated their will and estate planning. I was officially removed as a beneficiary because, in their words, Spencer has chosen his own path and demonstrated no need for family support. I sat on the floor of my apartment, the letter crumpled in my fist, something breaking inside me. It was not about the money, but the complete rejection it represented. In that moment, I made a vow to myself I would never again seek their approval or assistance. Whatever success I achieved would be entirely my own. With renewed determination fueled by pain, I focused entirely on my data security concept. I created detailed business plans, coded prototypes, and networked relentlessly at tech events. At one such gathering, a startup pitch competition, I presented my idea for a revolutionary approach to data encryption for businesses. My presentation caught the attention of David Freeman, an angel investor known for spotting tech talent. "Your concept addresses a critical gap in the market," David told me afterward, his business card now clutched in my shaking hand. "Let us talk about how to make this real." 2 weeks later, he invested $50,000 in exchange for a small equity stake, allowing me to officially found SecureCore from the cramped confines of my studio apartment. Those early startup years tested every fiber of my being. I worked 18-hour days, often sleeping on a small cot in the corner of our first tiny office space. My diet worsened, my health suffered, and I lost touch with what few friends I had. I faced countless rejections from potential clients and investors who thought I was too young or my approach too unconventional. There were moments I nearly gave up. During one particularly brutal week, 3 major potential clients rejected our platform. My lead developer quit, and our server crashed, losing 2 weeks of work. I sat alone in the dark office at 3 in the morning, wondering if my family had been right all along about my capabilities. But then came our breakthrough. In our 3rd year, after dozens of small contracts and incremental improvements to our security platform, we landed a contract with Global Tech Industries worth $1.5 million. Our team then, just 6 people, celebrated with cheap champagne in plastic cups. That contract opened doors we had been knocking on for years. The next 5 years brought exponential growth. SecureCore expanded from 6 employees to 50, then 100. Our annual revenue climbed from $1.5 million to $10 million. We moved from our cramped office to a beautiful space in downtown Boston, ironically just blocks from my father's financial firm. Our client list grew to include Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and international organizations. By my 35th birthday, SecureCore was valued at $200 million. The struggling student who could barely afford ramen had become a self-made millionaire. I had a penthouse apartment overlooking the city, investments diversified across sectors, and most importantly, the validation that came from building something meaningful entirely on my own. All without a single dollar or word of encouragement from my family. The call came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was reviewing quarterly projections with my executive team when my assistant interrupted. "Spencer, I have your mother on line 1. She says it is urgent." 10 years had passed since I had spoken to either of my parents. 10 years of holidays spent alone, or with friends of birthdays, marked only by colleagues of building a life completely separate from the family that had excluded me. I excused myself from the meeting and took the call in my private office. "Spencer," my mother's voice sounded older, frailer than I remembered. "I know we have no right to ask anything of you, but we need your help." She proceeded to explain how everything had fallen apart. My father, Thomas, had made a series of catastrophic investments, losing their retirement savings and accumulating massive debt. The financial firm where he had worked for 30 years had forced him into early retirement after clients complained about his increasingly poor judgment. At 65, he was unemployed, and essentially unemployable in his field. My brother Jack had never completed his medical residency. He had developed a gambling addiction during medical school, using much of his education fund to cover gambling debts. He was now working as a pharmaceutical sales representative, barely making enough to cover his own expenses, let alone help our parents. My sister Amanda had become a lawyer as planned, but was laid off during firm-wide cuts 3 years ago. She had 3 children from a marriage that ended in a bitter divorce and was struggling to make child support payments stretch to cover basic necessities. "We are going to lose the house," my mother explained, her voice breaking. "The bank is foreclosing next month. We need $300,000 to clear the debts and keep a roof over our heads. I know it is a lot to ask, but we would pay you back eventually." I sat in stunned silence, the irony overwhelming. The same family who could not spare a dollar for my education now needed hundreds of thousands from me. The same parents who crossed me out of their will were asking for financial salvation. My first instinct was vindication, even satisfaction. The tables had completely turned. But beneath that initial reaction, a more complex emotion emerged. These were still the people who raised me, however imperfectly. And somehow, despite everything, a part of me still cared what happened to them. "I need to think about this," I finally responded, my voice steady despite the emotional turmoil inside. "I will call you back in a few days." That night, I sat on the balcony of my penthouse, watching the city lights, while wrestling with the most difficult decision of my life. Should I help the family that never helped me? Would assistance be an act of compassion or merely enable their continued poor choices? Was there a way to help, without simply handing over money they had no real prospect of repaying after? 3 days of internal debate, I reached my decision. I called my mother back and said simply, I will come to Boston this weekend. Have everyone at the house at noon on Saturday. We need to talk face to face. The family home looked smaller than I remembered, the paint peeling, the garden overgrown. When I pulled up in my Tesla, 4 pairs of eyes watched from behind the living room curtains. Stepping inside was like entering a time capsule, everything familiar yet somehow diminished. My father sat in his usual armchair, older, but still maintaining that proud posture despite circumstances. My mother hovered nearby, anxiety evident in her every movement. Jack and Amanda sat on the sofa, both looking worn down by life in ways that surprised me. Thank you for coming. My father began, the words clearly difficult for him. Your mother explained our situation. She did, I replied, taking the only remaining seat directly across from him. $300,000 is a substantial amount of money. We would not ask if we had any other option, Amanda interjected, her lawyer training evident in her carefully chosen words. I am truly sorry for how things were between us, Spencer. I never realized how differently our parents treated you until I was much older. Jack nodded in agreement. I was self-absorbed back then, too focused on my own path to see how unfair everything was for you. I should have been a better brother. My father, however, remained stoic, pride still battling with necessity. We made decisions based on what we thought was best at the time. Jack and Amanda chose conventional paths that required financial support. You were always independent, finding your own way. The justification ignited a spark of anger I thought I had long extinguished. Let us be honest about what happened. You invested in their futures and abandoned mine. You gave them each $200,000 for education and left me with nothing. You removed me from your will because I did not follow the path you chose. And now you need my help because all of those favored paths led to failure while my hobby built a fortune. The room fell silent. My mother wiped tears from her cheeks. Even my father seemed momentarily humbled. I have made a decision. I continued, my voice softening slightly. I will not be giving you $300,000. Their faces fell, but I held up my hand to continue. Instead, I am going to buy this house outright from the bank. You can continue living here without fear of foreclosure. I turned to my siblings. As for you two, I am offering you both positions at SecureCorp. Jack in our pharmaceutical client relations division, and Amanda in our legal compliance department. The jobs are real, with real responsibilities and consequences. You will earn your salaries through actual work, not family connection. I looked directly at my father, and for you, Dad, I have a different proposition. SecureCorp is establishing a foundation to support young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, pursuing careers in technology. I want you to serve on the advisory board to learn about the talent that exists in places and people you have always overlooked. My father started to object, his pride visibly wounded by what he perceived as charity. We cannot accept this kind of handout. This is not charity, I replied firmly. It is investment in family, with conditions. First, all of you will attend family counseling together. Second, Jack will enter a gambling addiction program. Third, we will start fresh, acknowledging the past without being prisoners to it. After tense discussion and negotiation, they accepted my terms. Not from gratitude, at least not initially, but from necessity. It was a beginning, albeit an uncomfortable one. 2 years have passed since that confrontation in my childhood home. The journey has not been easy or straightforward, but change has gradually taken root in ways I never expected. The family counseling sessions were initially awkward and sometimes volatile. During our third session, my father finally broke down and admitted what I had waited decades to hear. I was wrong about you, Spencer. I was wrong about so many things. I pushed my own dreams onto your siblings and dismissed yours because I did not understand them. I am sorry for failing you as a father. Those words did not instantly heal decades of hurt, but they opened a door that had long been closed. My mother, too, acknowledged her role in the favoritism that had shaped our family dynamic, tearfully recounting instances where she had allowed my accomplishments to go uncelebrated while elevating my siblings. Jack and Amanda have surprised me with their growth. After initial resistance, Jack embraced his addiction recovery program and has maintained sobriety for 18 months. He has become a valuable asset to our pharmaceutical security team, his medical background, providing insights that purely technical staff lack. Amanda has thrived in our legal department, her attention to detail and analytical mind, helping to navigate complex compliance issues as SecureCorps expands internationally. Both have worked hard to earn their positions, neither taking for granted the second chance they were given. In memory of Professor Martin, who passed away last year, I established the Martin Innovation Scholarship at MIT, providing full funding for 10 students annually from backgrounds similar to mine, talented young people without family financial support. My father, to his credit, has become actively involved in selecting recipients, perhaps finding some redemption in helping others avoid the pain his own son experienced. My personal life has evolved too. At a technology conference in San Francisco, I met Lily, a brilliant software engineer, with a quick wit and infectious laugh. Our relationship progressed naturally, built on mutual respect and shared passion for innovation. Last month, we married in a small ceremony that remarkably included my entire family. The tension of the past noticeably diminished. The wedding represented a full-circle moment. Standing there with my new wife, surrounded by family members, who had once rejected me but were now sincerely celebrating my happiness, I realized that success truly is the best response to exclusion, not because it allows for revenge, but because it creates the possibility for healing on your own terms. The journey from that devastated young man reading a letter excluding him from his family's will to the person I am today has taught me that the most powerful transformation comes not from proving others wrong, but from proving yourself right. From building something meaningful that reflects your values, not their expectations. I have learned that forgiveness is not about excusing past wrongs, but about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment that anchors you to those painful moments. It is a gift you give yourself first, and then, if appropriate, to others. To those watching who have faced similar family betrayal or exclusion, remember that your worth is not determined by those who fail to see your potential. The path forward is not about seeking validation from those who withheld it, but about creating a life so authentic and fulfilling that external validation becomes unnecessary. What experiences in your own life have taught you about overcoming family rejection or unfair treatment? Have you ever had to decide whether to help someone who previously hurt you? Share your stories in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories of resilience, and share with someone who might need to hear that exclusion does not have to define their future. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes the family we create through love and mutual respect is more powerful than the one we are born into.